Okay, so Dean, you're 7. You're number 7. This show's going to be 2.5 hours.
Easily. My number 7 is a movie that I've talked about a lot this year, so keep it short. But it's Ira Sachs' Little Men. Had a great conversation with Ira Sachs a few weeks ago, which if you've missed it, go and check that out. But this wonderful movie is also kind of a commentary on what's happening to the middle class in our era. Greg Kinnear plays the father of our lead character, who's I gotta look up the. Hold on a second.
That's okay. Do what you gotta do, man.
I should have done this before. Greg Kinnear plays the father of our lead character, who's a great young actor named Theo Taplitz. He plays an actor. Kinnear plays an actor whose father has just passed away and leaves him a building in Brooklyn. At the base of the building is a renter played by Paulina Garcia, who you might remember from a Chilean movie a few years ago called Gloria. She's running a dress shop that's failing, that's kind of a little bit out of step with the way the gentrification of the area is going. She's also been paying a very low rent to the deceased father, who's just passed away, and Greg Kinnear is being pressured by his sister, who is has also inherited this property, to up the rent so much so that it's going to drive Paulina Garcia out of the place. The complications ensue, though, because the son, Theo Taplitz, has forged a very strong friendship with the dress shop owner's son, who's played brilliantly by a kid named Michael Barbieri, who's really one of the finds of the year. I think he's sort of like like kind of a Matt Dillon type performance. You just like, wow, he's got magnetism and strength behind his performance, and sort of a street smart quality to it that's very endearing. So really this movie is about the relationship. I've kind of framed it as the clash between Kinnear and Garcia as being the lead portion of the movie, but it's really about this relationship between these two kids, and in that way it kind of sent me back to my own childhood, to my own teenage years, and to friends that I remembered having back then, and those relationships were so important, and then in a moment they could be gone, and they become just a memory. As important as people are in our lives, they're not necessarily going to be there forever. And they may seem like it's going to be like that in the moment, but really, at any one moment, they could leave. And it's that quality that I think I responded to most in the movie. I think it has possibly the best ensemble. I mean, this is a year of some really great ensemble, casts, but I really loved this one, and I just I love those two kids. I love the score. I love the sort of breeziness of the direction and the writing, and I just responded to it very, very deeply. So that's my number. That's my number 7.
Okay. Jerry, you're number 7.
My number 7 we've talked about, and that would be Green Room. And I know we've talked about that at length on the show, for and against it. And I just thought, and you know what, I'm not going to lie to you, it's one of the 2 great films this year that have great like songs, not original scores, but just supplemental music, if we will, just being the punk soundtrack. The other movie that I would put on that in that category is 20th Century Women, which is a magnificent selection of music from that time period. But I have to go with Green Room just because I do think, I hate to say it, but it just seems like a precursor in one way, even though I don't think it was the filmmaker's intent of where the country is sort of going. It does show us our ugly underbelly of what our country is capable of. But what really surprised me about the movie, Jeremy Salander's movie, As with Blue Ruin, was there unexpected moments of tenderness in the movie, in this very vile world where we have this punk band that's trapped in a skinhead club, and it's about really nothing more than they're trying to get out in one piece, their survival. They've witnessed a murder, and they're trying to get out in one piece, and it's a very hard film to sit through. I actually was thinking about this earlier. I put it with Requiem for a Dream. It's a magnificent movie, but I don't want to ever sit through it again. It's one of those kind of movies, but I do think it's very powerful. I think it's very powerful. It's one of the last great performances from Anton Yelchin that we'll see. A very good performance by Patrick Stewart as the head, white supremacist, and he's very good in the movie. So definitely quite different from what we're used to seeing from him. It's a fascinating movie, but it's one of these movies that's I can understand why it's not for everyone, but it certainly left an impression on me.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
My number 7, cue the groans, Dean, is Arrival.
Oh no!
It's a great movie. You'll hear.
I want to groan.
Okay.
I groaned at the last 2 that we've talked about. Okay, but okay.
So in terms of the movie that I think I will grapple with most out of my top 10, I think this is the one. There are still many mysteries involved in it with me. I've only watched it once, the screening before it opened. But in terms of the experience of watching it that first time, this is the movie that transfixed me more than anything else. I felt like I was truly lost in its world. And I chose at first viewing not to try to solve it like the puzzle it is, but to kind of let the feeling of it, the tone of it, wash over me. And in that respect alone, I think it's a remarkable movie because it has a feeling to it right in its marrow that just, it really seeped into me and it really got me. And I think I'm also attracted to the theme of memory, how we experience memories, how they play in our minds after the passage of time. Because I find more and more when I look back at the memories of my life and, we sentimentalize some things, they become bigger in our minds, and I try to recapture what did the actual moment feel like in the moment. Because upon reflection, a lot of memories feel bigger than they were. And a lot of memories we make, we don't know they're so titanic in meaning to us at the time. So that's an interesting kind of interplay with how it does the kind of suggestive intercutting that I thought was really effective, the Terrence Malick kind of thing. But from another thematic standpoint, I was moved by, you undergo a terrible tragedy. would you do it over again? Leading up to that tragedy, was it worth it? And I think that's probably maybe the final stage of grief, knowing that your child is going to die, and you're going to undergo that unbearable loss. Yes, I would do it over again, because the journey and the love that I felt and her presence in my life was worth it. I thought that was very powerful. Now, in terms of the mysteries I have yet to unravel, the whole sci-fi aspect of it. I am admittedly, I'm not a huge science fiction fan, but I appreciated how they took sci-fi devices and weave them in to tell a more kind of intimate human story. I like that. Now, where the aliens, the communication, I like the communication that they communicated almost through time and memory. I like that concept. But I can see that this movie will deepen, and my understanding of it will deepen as well the more times I watch it in the years to come.
Okay. I'm not convinced.
I love this movie, and I'm so happy that you picked this, Jamie. I mean, I wanted to put this on my list so badly, but there are only 10 slots, and I didn't know this was a year you're all going to adopt my style. I would have gone ahead and done a couple of doubles here.
And by the way, I mean, there's nothing wrong with not totally understanding a movie. But knowing that you have to live with it a bit longer.
Yes. One of our favorite movies.
Those are the kind of movies that we should look for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 2001. A lot of people loved 2001 and loved it when it first came out, but they didn't know what the hell it was about, but they still loved it. They still liked it. And that movie only gets better, and I hate to say it, it gets better, but I think every time I watch that movie, I have more questions than I have answers. And that's really, I think that's true of Arrival. I mean, I don't understand all of Arrival. I understand the basics of it, but I'm sure I'll go back and I definitely want to watch it again. It's an awesome movie, and it was, it looked like for a while it would have been on my top 10. But it's a hard movie, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that it's not that's the kind. It's what a science fiction movie in another age would have been. We're so used to, sadly, other kinds of things that really wouldn't have been called sci-fi back in their day. So I appreciate it for what it is, and I appreciate the challenge. I hope there are more movies like that.
Number 6 for you, Dean.
Number 6 is also a movie that I've talked about a little bit this year. It's James Schamus's debut film, Indignation, based on the Philip Roth novel of the same name. It stars Logan Lerman as a Jewish student in the 50s, going to a kind of a Christian college in Ohio, and he sort of falls in love with a deceptively beautiful but also very troubled young woman, played by Sarah Gadon, and he has he's in love with this woman, and they go out on a first date, and she does something that shocks him so much that he begins to question her worth. And it's a movie about sexual repression in the 50s, and also sort of this character's kind of drifting. It's also a movie about memory and the way that it's set up. If you'll see the first scenes of the movie, and they're effective, and then you kind of forget about them as we get into the main crux of the story, and then they come back at the end of the film, and you're like, oh my God, so that's what that was about. It's a really, really effective effective drama with another great cast. I mean, Logan Lerman, who is an actor that has never really registered with me until now, but I thought that this was a perfect performance for him, a kind of a Dustin Hoffman-y type performance, early Dustin Hoffman. But the supporting characters, not only Sarah Gadon, but also Linda Eamon, who plays Lerman's mother, is magnificent in it. She comes in. She's in the first part of the movie, but she comes in the last third and really just knocks it out of the park. And then particularly, of course, I got to re-mention Tracy Letts, who is superb here as the dean of the school that he goes to, and probably the centerpiece of the movie is a very, very long 20-minute sort of debate between Lerman and Tracy Letts that is just really unlike anything that I've seen all year. It's just so funny and I don't know, fraught with tension. I don't know. I just could not forget this movie, and it absolutely mystifies me how this movie is not being talked about in this year, and I see nobody mentioning it. Nobody. It's obviously a well-constructed, beautifully made movie. James Schamus, who is mostly has been the producer for a lot of Ang Lee movies and screenwriter for some of them as well, including Crouching Tiger and The Ice Storm. So he's no newcomer to movies, but this is his first. This is his debut film as a director. And I'm just really happy about that because this just shows you that he's going to go on to do some other really challenging stuff. But really, once you get a chance to see Indignation, take it. And I think everybody who loves movies should really adore it.
No, it's a good movie. We have talked about it. It's a really well made movie. I think it's really interesting. Like when we went to go see it, the opening weekend, they gave us a card to fill out, like you would normally get at a screening.
Mm-hmm.
They gave us a card to fill out because they really weren't. I don't think the studio had confidence in the movie. It turns out they really had no confidence in it. That's one of the impressions I'm under, and it's a really well-made movie. There's a lot to like about it. So I don't understand. I just don't think the studio was fully behind it.
Yeah, I just get the impression that people haven't seen it. By the way, the entire cast is good. This is another movie that gives shining scenes to people for just one scene or something. But it's got a very accomplished cast of a lot of people that you've never seen before in movies, or at least haven't been highlighted. But I just loved it, and I adore it. So.
I need to see it. One of many I need to see. Jerry, you're number 6.
Well, it's Hell or High Water.
Okay.
That's simple.
Is that it?
No, that's all. We talked about it. I just thought to move it along, to move the show along. I'm just trying to help out, Jamie. Just trying to help.
No, I appreciate that. Number 6 for me. I finally saw this movie, and I was very moved by it. So number 6 for me is Moonlight. I appreciated that it was a life journey, that you saw this kid at 3 stages of his life. I especially appreciated the transformation between the second and the third parts, because that was the most profound transformation in his own life, when he heeded his kind of father figure's advice of, you have to define who you're going to be. And he did that. And I know that a lot of people take issue with the third actor looking completely different from the other two because he's all bulked up and stuff, but I think it's a different person. And yet, and yet inside those wounds and those unanswered questions about himself remain unhealed.
Mm-hmm.
And another criticism of the movie is that it doesn't go far enough in his sexuality. But I think it confronts the character's homosexuality as much as he does, as much as he allows himself to. So I love the way it was shot. I love the use of I love the colors popped in it. I love the use of subjective camera. I was really taken by it. I love the relationships in it. The tenderness of it. It's another movie that for me is very, very humanistic.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very moved by it, and after seeing it, I mean, in Academy members' minds, I would imagine that I really do see how it is a race between Moonlight and La La Land, and I can see either one of them winning, but I still give La La Land the edge, not because I like La La Land more than Moonlight. Just because I think it appeals more to the Hollywood kind of nostalgic crowd.
I think it's a good movie. You'll have to forgive me. I like it. I just wasn't over the moon about it like a lot of people. I think I'd heard so much before I saw it. I sort of like was one of those things like I get it, but I get it, but I don't get all the love for it. I don't think there's anything wrong with the movie. It just didn't register with me as much as I would wanted it to, if that makes sense.
That's the way I feel about it too.
But I don't think it's a bad movie. I don't want.
I have immense respect for it, and I think my main complaint is I just wish that they had made the character more expressive, I guess. I feel very frustrated by that character in the sense that I just don't think that feeling like your sexuality is repressed or should be repressed is enough to shut down your entire being, like in terms of being able to talk. I just don't understand that choice, really. And so I respond to the look of the movie. I definitely respond to the colorful aspect of it. I love the score, and it's a tremendous, collection of actors there. But I just wish there had been something else done on the screenplay level.
See, for me, there is a comparison between this and Christine, in that they are both kind of very closed off. But I understood why he was. I understood. It's like when Heath Ledger played the character in Brokeback Mountain, and his expression of that repression was in his jaw. In his clenched jaw. Yeah. And, that kind of feeling manifests itself, that kind of not feeling entirely comfortable with yourself, manifests itself in different ways. I believe that it would manifest itself for this character in that way, especially as a young black kid. Sensing that you're gay, and having that be so totally ruinous to the kind of world that he existed in. I mean, I know that's a problem for anyone, irrespective of race, but particularly in that environment, I would imagine that you're afraid to express anything. And I think that the warmth and the expression of humanity comes from a lot of the peripheral characters around him as well. And also it means that when he finally does speak, it's very powerful. Because in that second segment, when he finally opens up his mouth and speaks and he asks, "What's a faggot?" That's a powerful moment.
Yeah.
And I think if he were, Chatterbox up until that point, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be as meaningful. I mean,
well, remember that actually happens in the first part. That happens in the first part when he's a kid. When he's
it does.
It happens, because it happens opposite Mahershala Ali, who's great in the movie. I think my reaction to Moonlight, just like it was with Jerry, might have something to do with the hype behind it. And maybe I'll come back to it and appreciate it more if I watch it again. Anyway, I'm glad that you liked it.
Separated from the hype. But I came at a place where I heard both of you express reservations about it. So that was my hype.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Okay, Dean, you're number 5. We're 5 now, right?
Yep. Number 5 is Mike Mills' 20th Century Women, which I found to be extraordinarily entertaining, and I don't know, maybe not. It's also kind of, for me, like Little Men, it sort of keys into. I was 13 years old in 1979, and so I really related to this movie. I was my parents hadn't divorced at that particular time, but I could just relate to this movie extremely to an extreme level. I found it also to be one of the great ensemble casts of the year. I mean, everybody's terrific in it. Annette Bening is the single mother. Elle Fanning is the kid's best friend and love interest. That was also very very personal to me, because I was kind of in love with my best friend when I was when I was 16. She was everything to me, and I wanted to move on to a romantic relationship, and it just wasn't going to happen because it was a friendship, and she didn't want to ruin that. So that was also something that I keyed into. I loved the music. I loved the look of it. Mm-hmm. I loved the art direction in it. I thought was somehow like just perfect. Like the attention to detail. The books on the shelves and everything were just. Yes, that's what it would be. There's a copy of Future Shock on the shelf, and and stuff like that. It's I just loved it. It just keyed into something very personal to me, and I don't know. It's another movie too that if this would have been like in the released in the 90s or something, this would definitely be like in the conversation for Best Picture, because it's really just got everything in it. I mean, oh God, and talk about Greta Gerwig is so superb in it. How much I love her.
It's her best performance to date. I mean, it's a very different performance. I mean, I was thinking about this while watching it. She's, she is in many, and you may disagree with me on this, but I think in many ways she's parodying Lena Dunham in some ways, because she's really just kind of, and maybe it's not on purpose, but just the way Lena Dunham's been acting the last couple of years, I almost felt she was like doing a spot-on parody of her at some point throughout some of it. Because I know that, because Greta Gerwig comes to prominence at the same time as Tiny Furniture and Girls. So they've always, I thought, been competing for the same roles. And this just really, at points, takes off. But it's a very mature performance from her. And she also is very good in Jackie, this year, too. So she's definitely grown up. She's definitely, but this is, I thought she was very good in this. I mean, I thought everyone was good. I mean, I think that I have no problem with this movie. And I just watched it on Friday night, so sadly it's not in my top 10, but it's definitely, I just think it's enough can't be said about it. It's something. I'm still be thinking about this for a while though to let it sink in. But it's just on the surface right now. It's a very beautiful film. Very beautiful.
And it's got it's been. I remember in some circles it been said that the screenplay it doesn't really. That it doesn't really add up to anything, and to me, it was a movie about this mother trying to understand where her son is at, and I think they come to some kind of understanding, and that's the story.
Yeah.
And it. It was also very interesting too how the movie is constructed, particularly when it comes to its ending, and it talks about the future of all the characters, and it's the kind of a thing that happens in another movie that I'll be talking about later on, but it too is kind of a memory piece, and I guess there's a lot in my top 10 that a lot of movies in my top 10 that really hinge on this, I guess.
Right.
But anyway, 20th Century Women, it's so funny too, and I just love all those characters, Billy Crudup, and it's just superb. I loved it.
Okay, Jerry, you're number 5.
My number 5 we've talked about, and that would be Andrea Arnold's American Honey. And I had to put this on here. I think and we've talked about it on the show, so I'll just make it brief. But I do think Sasha Lane, like Katie Jarvis in Fish Tank, just gives this incredible performance. And Andrea Arnold, obviously a British director, this is her American debut. Really goes out of her way to make this, to continue the road movie, if it were, that if you want to say was, that Larry Clark and Harmony Korine ventured on in their film careers. And this is definitely is in that, and it's about her traveling with this group of kids led by America's favorite actor, Shia LaBeouf, probably the great actor of his day in that hour in his own mind. But he's actually pretty good in this. To be fair to him, I know he has a cult following. There are people that really love this guy. I just think he's. Those are people who like watching car accidents, but that's just me. But he's actually pretty good as the person that leads the group of teens and kids selling these magazine subscriptions throughout the American South, and it's just a really beautiful movie. And I'm so glad I was able to see it on the big screen, where I think it needs to be really appreciated. But it obviously not. It came and went very quickly when it did for its brief theatrical run, but I just thought this was just something to behold. There's a lot of little moments in this movie, and there's just a lot of truths in the movie that I think really add up to a lot when all is said and done. Not
the movie is about the little moments, because the movie, if you're looking for a movie that, and this movie probably does adhere to a 3-act structure, but in a very loose way, if you're looking for a movie where 1 + 1 = 2, you're not giving yourself up to it. The movie is a journey,
big journey,
of little moments over a course of something like 2 hours and 40 minutes. I mean, it's a long movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is.
And you're not sure where it's all going to end up, but if you give yourself up to it and you enjoy the company of these characters, which I found that I did, then that in itself is rewarding enough. I thought it was a good portrait of these people in this world. So yeah, I thought it was a worthy movie, and Shia LaBeouf is very good in it. I've never had a problem with Shia LaBeouf, the actor. I think he's been
the personality.
Fine. Yeah. I think he's been fine to good in everything he's done.
Yeah, no, he's good.
He's never
recognizing.
He's never been embarrassing.
No, never been embarrassing.
Performance standpoint, yeah.
No.
I mean, it's not his fault that he was swinging with monkeys and Crystal Skull. That's not his doing. He didn't write that.
No, he didn't write that. And poor Harrison Ford. Why did his cinematic offspring have to be such losers. But I think he's a good actor actually, and he's good in this. And Nymphomaniac, I thought he was very good. And I thought the guy that Recognizing Your Saints, he was very good, and I thought he was good in Hole. So I don't really have a problem with him. I think we like to play on that tabloid thing in the news, but no, and he's actually very good in this. I don't think he's perfect for what the part entails, and he's almost, when you first see him in the movie, you're almost happy. You're like, okay, this is very interesting. He is going to be like he's the adult in the room, for lack of a better word, for most of the movie.
Right.
As weird as that
and
sounds.
everything that entails.
Yes.
Okay, my number 5 is the best political film to come out in years. It's Wiener. We've talked a lot about it, so I'll just say this: there's a scene in Wiener where the second scandal hits, and he's being interviewed by Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC, and O'Donnell says simply, "What's wrong with you?"
That's right.
Very pointed question, and it begins a whole kind of scene of combat where Wiener gets very defensive and says, "What a stupid question! I'm offended by the question," and he's screaming. But what the movie does, which is really interesting, the movie, he's being interviewed via satellite. So when you're interviewed via satellite, you're in a studio, by yourself in front of a camera. You're looking at a monitor where the person interviewing you is speaking to you. It's a dislocation that occurs in satellite interviews. So, and you see it from that perspective. So you hear his defensive retorts, but you don't hear Lawrence O'Donnell on the other end. You just hear Wiener screaming at him, like he's in an echo chamber. And that's just indicative of the whole political environment.
Yeah,
at this moment in time. And that's just one of the kind of the insights in the movie, where all the sensationalism comes from. Also, the dichotomy of liking the man's ideas, not liking the man.
Right.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shading that we can't quite get to in today's society. We can't separate one from the other.
Mm-hmm. Not anymore.
And, yeah. The movie has so much to offer in terms of, first of all, the sensationalism, just the kind of the juiciness of it. It has fun with it. You can't believe
you can't believe that cameras are there capturing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's that great scene where he's sitting there watching himself on screen, and Huma is behind him, just sort of rolling her eyes, I can't believe this guy.
Yeah.
Basically what you're seeing is the meltdown of not only a political career, but of a marriage as well. And that is a microcosm for the meltdown of the country and how we view politics too, because they're essentially destroying themselves by engaging in this kind of sensationalism. We are. Wiener did, and so are we. It's been so long since I've seen a movie that is all at the same time truthful, funny, jaw-dropping, and painfully sad. All at the same time. It's true.
And that's what Wiener is.
It really almost made my top 10 list. It's really on the outside, at number 12 or 11 or 12. But it's a brilliant piece. And so of today, it's also in a lot of ways it's about internet addiction. I mean,
yes, it is.
I guess it's not just about internet addiction. It's about the addiction to be recognized. His absolute need to be recognized, whether it's by somebody he's sending a dick pic to, or just the entire country as a whole. But he's somebody who's just off of his moorings, out of his mind, really. it's really a
undeniably,
shame too.
How can someone be so smart and so stupid?
Yes.
And that whole need to be recognized and the need and the kind of the feeling that when that little boy takes a picture with Wiener at the end, which sounds really awful.
Yeah.
that is a sentence. But when he sees Anthony Weiner and the little boy recognizes him and is so excited, like this is the biggest celebrity he's ever met before in his life and wants to have a picture taken with him. The movie shows that. The movie doesn't tell you what to feel about it, but you could feel a number of ways about that.
Mm-hmm. And it leaves it up to you.
Yeah.
I love that. There's so many ways that you can react to this movie, and they're all correct. Probably.
Yeah.